Well, thank you for staying with us. Let's get into our first story now. Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Ofosu Amwa, says the Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOGSAG, will not embark on a strike today. This comes on the back of a statement released and signed by the Executive Secretary of CLOGSAG, Isaac Bampo, directing members to stay away from work today over the non-payment of their neutrality allowance. We'll be taking a statement related to that. In fact, two statements, but we'll start with this statement shortly. And that is it on your screen, of course, with the letterhead of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, Ghana. And it reads, notice of intention to proceed on strike due to non-implementation of neutrality allowance. Now, the National Executive Council of the Civil and Local Governments Staff Association, Ghana, met on Tuesday, 29th March 2022, to discuss the status of implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding entered into with government on the 20th of January 2022. It was noted that payment of the neutrality allowance had not been effected as agreed, in spite of official reminders and follow-ups to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. The National Executive Council, therefore, decided that CLOGSAG should embark on an industrial action to press home its demand for the implementation of the MOU. Notice has therefore been served on the National Labour Commission, the Civil Service Council, and the Local Government Service Council, with copies to the Honourable Senior Presidential Advisor, the Honourable Minister for National Security, and Honourable Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, that the association would proceed on strike from the 21st of April 2022. Regional secretaries are by this letter enjoined to bring this to the notice of all members of the association. Council appreciates your continuous support in our quest to attain better conditions of service for our members. And it was signed by Executive Secretary Isaac Bampo Addo. But now, speaking on Joy News Prime earlier, Mr. Ofosu Amwa said the National Executive of CLOGSAG had not mandated any strike.
There will be no strike going on tomorrow. I have personally spoken to the CLOGSAG General Secretary. There is no strike. National executives have not mandated any strike. And there is no strike tomorrow. The circular making rounds was that of the 5th of April. That was before the NLC's intervention. So after the NLC's intervention, there is no strike tomorrow.
Very well. But just clarify for us, what does this neutrality allowance entail?
Or is an allowance which is paid to the civil service and local government service people, as they are not allowed to take care in active political activities in the country.
But that is already a requirement in law, in the Constitution. Why pay them to do their work?
And they are being compensated for it.
And the Minister, Dr. Yaoseye Duchum, has announced the release of about 68 million Ghana cedis to cater to the payment of food supplies to the colleges of education. The release comes after the principals of the colleges issued a statement asking the teacher trainees to prepare to take up the full cost of feeding due to the non-payment of feeding grants. The issue of the delay in payment in feeding grants to the colleges of education is just one of the myriad issues plaguing the colleges. Addressing the media, Dr. Duchum said the release of funds was in response to these concerns.
I'm very happy today to inform you that government has released 67,942,652 cedis to colleges of education. I know you may have read the media reports. There were many calls on us to respond to concerns of Trenkov, and wanted to take advantage of your presence here to let the country know that the President of the Republic, the Finance Minister, and all those who have worked hard to ensure that various promises made to colleges of education are carried through, has once again delivered on their promise. And that is why this amount has been released to colleges of education.
Now, it has also emerged that some students of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology are gambling with their fees, a phenomenon that may be accounting for the over 6,000 students forced by the university to defer their courses for the non-payment of fees. Now, the students were unable to settle at least 70% of their fees by the first week of April. The university's public relations officer, Dr. Daniel Norris Bakwe, tells my colleague Mohammed Nuruddin it has been forced to go through with this decision in order to keep the system running.
You know, every university needs to account for the number of students they have. So for a number of years, we have been having issues with students not paying fees, some of them completing university and going away with our fees. So this year, we have decided to apply the fee policy, which has been approved by the academic board. And it is required that as a student, if you're an undergraduate student, you must register your courses at the beginning of the semester and pay 70% of your fees. If you're a postgraduate student, you are supposed to pay 60% of your fees. Now we have given 2-month window from February through March to April 11th. And we have some numbers, about 92% of our student population who have been able to pay their fees and register their courses. And so those students are in good standing. What we are dealing with now is about 7 to 8% of the students who are unable to register their courses. Then we don't know the reason why they have not been able to do so.
And have we found out from these students, because some of them claim they are genuinely challenged, are we considering some exceptions, for instance?
The university over the years has given scholarship to a number of students. We are talking about students who have benefited from scholarship ranging to the numbers of about 6,000, 7,000. Last year, we gave free laptops to needy students, about 800 students. So the university is not insensitive. What we are having, the problem we have now is a number of students are playing games with the university. They use their school fees to buy Uber. Others are baking, they are setting up bakeries. Others are using it for betting. And these students, we have evidence. Some parents have even sent us audios where students have received the fees but have refused to pay, or simply trading with the money. And we cannot allow this to continue as a university.
That's surprising. Students are investing their school fees into other ventures, but
yes.
If they are investing, how is it that they don't pay the fees?
So that is the question that you and I have to find answers to.
How long has the school noticed this? Because you've talked about betting. That's quite worrying.
This has persisted for, I'll say, 2-3 years, because previously we've had the notion that, okay, some people are genuinely having challenges, and so you allow them, we give them that leeway, and there's some complaints with them without paying the fees. If we tell you the amount of money that is outstanding in terms of fees is huge.
About how much are we looking at?
No, what we are talking about right now is in the region of almost 55 million Ghana cedis.
Over a period of a year, how many years?
I'm talking about this year.
Just this year, 55 million in terms of arrears.
Yes, in arrears.
Well,
and if it will interest you to note that in a year we are spending over 22 to 24 million cedis just paying electricity bill. We are not talking about water. We are not talking about Wi-Fi. We are not talking about other expenditure that the university has to run to keep the university going.
Well, the Speaker of the Students' Parliament, Shamuna Suleiman Makani, is calling on the university's authority to reconsider the decision.
Burden of the ordinary student in KNUST today. So as it stands now, most of the students on that are being frustrated as to the way forward into our coming semester exams and in the academic year. Because if you have been deferred and you know explicitly you've been deferred, I doubt how you'll be able to stay focused and then get your academic work done and then possibly launch yourself into the academic excellence we came here to pursue. I don't have any stance to blame the university on the policy, but the fact of the matter is that we are not in normal times. post the ravages of COVID-19, and also the UTAG strike has imposed a lot on the student body. So we are calling on the university to consider an extension of the deadlines and possibly looking at reconsidering some provisions in the policy so that the ordinary student from the north, the ordinary student from the rural home, the ordinary student from likes of where I am coming from will be able to afford the university education and will be able to push our human capital index ahead.
Let's talk now about that infamous attack. And the New Patriotic Party's Nasara coordinator for the Sisala West constituency, Musa Walaika Idrisu, is battling for his life at the Upper West Regional Hospital after sustaining machete wounds. He was allegedly attacked by some party thugs in the constituency. At a press conference held at the Sisala West capital, Bolu, constituency executives of the party led by the secretary, Abdul Rauf Zini, accused the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh, and the chairman of the party, SB Kabgeri, for being the masterminds of the alleged attack, an allegation that the regional minister has flatly denied. Joy News' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Bolu.
I think anybody that has entered an abattoir, or the house of people who say Manyanka, anybody that has entered that place and the way the cattle has, or anybody that has seen Salah goat or Salah cow being chopped, is the same way Idrisu Walaika was chopped, if you watch the video.
Secretary of the Sisala West constituency of the governing New Patriotic Party, Abdul Rauf Zini, narrates how a faction of the party, allegedly engineered by a certain constituency chairman hopeful Abdul Majid Liman and supported by Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh, unleashed machete wounds on a faction perceived to be their sworn enemies over rumpus in polling station elections.
They use these tanks to hold the chief and elders of Facho, the IT officer, the 2020 parliamentary candidate, constituency chairman, constituency organizer, constituency research and election officer hostage for close to 2 hours in the chief palace. This resulted in the destruction of constituency chairman's vehicle, and over 10 motorbikes were vandalized. These tanks assaulted this Nasara coordinator, and several other people got wounded with fractures of the arm. Not satisfied with this, the Upper West Regional Minister used Russian-type armed security men to install Maji preferred polling station executive in the Desime, Kosali, and Konkoko polling stations. The rifle executives and the choice of party members were also assaulted, and the police were helpless due to regional ministers' active interference in the conduct of the polling station elections.
The constituency Nasara coordinator, Idrisu Walaika, was allegedly attacked on his way home late Monday evening and inflicted with machete wounds on various parts of his body and was rushed to the Bolu hospital. His condition became critical and had to be rushed to the Upper West Regional Hospital, where doctors said his condition is now stable but will require surgery on Thursday for further assessment of the injuries sustained. According to the NPP Sisala West Secretary, supporters of the party are now living in fear and wondering how a mere and simple polling station executive election could attract sea of security personnel to the area.
Also on the 12th of April 2022, Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh deployed over 150 armed security men. These heavily armed security men came with 2 armored vehicles, a bus, 2 PFU vehicles, NIB pickup, etc., just to conduct elections in 28 polling stations. It is as if the Sisala West has turned into a Ukraine war zone. They use these heavily intimidating security men to install polling station executives without recourse to party guidelines. These security men were only interested in the choice of person of the regional minister and regional chairman.
They are of the firm belief that although the Upper West Regional Police Command says they have arrested 2 persons in connection with the attack, they see it as space-saving and will wish that proper investigations is done to get the persons who allegedly inflicted machete wounds on the Nasara coordinator be punished according to the law.
Friends of the media, even though it is good that we have heard that the Sisala West District Command of Ghana Police Service has arrested 2 alleged suspects, but we see this arrest as a face-saving arrest. Honorable Waleka has fundamental human rights, which must at all times be respected, no matter the circumstances of the crime. The crime committed on this innocent man is certainly abuse of power and desperation to lead.
Meanwhile, Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, whose head is on the chopping board by Sisala West constituency executives speaking to me off camera, expressed surprise about the allegations leveled against him. He strenuously denied the allegations, stating that his aim is for peace to prevail in the region and has not in any way tilted his support for one side or the other. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam, Bolu.
Now, scientists at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology are warning regular consumers of watermelon of adverse health effects from banned pesticides. The findings published in the journal Scientific Reports found unacceptable levels of the pesticide residues like DDT in some of the fruits on the market in the Ashanti region. Joy News' medical correspondent Dr. Netta Pasram now reports.
A group of pesticides known as organochlorines, which DDT and HCH form a part of, are banned for agricultural use. However, developing countries such as Ghana continue to use them.
Probably because of the organochlorine pesticides that have been banned and are still in use. And if you look at fruits, they are not the type of things that we cook before eating. We take them as we consume them as we find them. The only thing probably that we do is to wash them. And these persistent organic pesticides, the organochlorine pesticides, have effect on human beings, harmful effects. They are poisonous, they have a tendency to cause cancer, and for which reason this particular project was something that was of necessity. And so we wanted not only to look at what happens in the market, because we know that people bring their wares from the farms to the market to sell. We're looking at what happens on the farm.
The scientists wanted to assess the levels of organochlorine residues in fruits and determine the potential risk associated with exposure to these pesticides. For the study, the researchers used 120 fruits from 5 communities in the Mampong municipality of the Ashanti region.
All these are communities where they are doing extensive farming into fruits and fruits mainly. And we looked at 3 of them, banana, pineapple, and watermelon, which is very much consumed. All these 3 are consumed by a lot of people on a daily basis. So we looked at the possible risk associated with these consumptions and realized that for most of these fruits, the risk of consumption was low for both infants and adults. But then for watermelon, the risk of consumption for adults was low, whereas that for infants was alarmingly high. I would say alarmingly high because the factor that we got was far greater than 1, which means that it is alarming. Also, when we looked at the carcinogenic risk, we also realized that the children are at a risk of having cancer by consuming watermelon because of the level of organochlorine pesticide that was found on it. We didn't see the same for the other 2 fruits that we looked at, which is pineapple and banana.
The scientists are therefore calling for regular monitoring of pesticide levels in fruits in order to protect consumer health. Reporting for Joy News, Dr. Netta Pasram.
Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get into our news review, bringing you the details from the papers. We'll start with the Daily Graphic, but before I do so, let me say a very good morning to policy analyst with Imani Africa, Selom Brantier. Good morning, Selom.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How about you?
Not bad at all.
All right. Let's kickstart the conversation because I know you're a product of the KNUST. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. Proudly so.
Proudly so, right. So how do you feel about these 6,000 students who have been affected, who have been forced to defer their courses and all of that? And we're told that some of them basically were given their fees and they expended them on betting, on business, on a bakery, for example, and other things. Curious for you, have the times changed or is it just a normal practice?
It's difficult to say, but KNUST has always been one of the most entrepreneurial of all the university campuses. I mean, when I was there, I had friends who were running photocopy, photocopy enterprises while in school. Right. Others were doing so many things. We're very versatile. I still believe we are. Only that these days, the youth of today, they prefer quick money. So I'm sure a lot of them deprioritized or de-risked the fact that maybe they will have some reprieve for not paying their fees. And that is resulting in the scenario that has popped up today. I'm sure that this decision was not taken very lightly, probably was out of frustration from the authorities or the administration about the attitude of quite a lot of these students.
We're told it's over what? I mean, this year alone, the debt incurred from such activities sum up to over 50 million cedis. That's no small money.
Wow. No, that's not small money at all. That's not small money at all. And the university has every right to enforce some of these things to ensure that they themselves can also run an effective administration of the school because with a huge population of the students. I mean, that 6,000 number in my day was the total population of KNUST.
Right.
Yeah, and that was 20 years ago, or just about 20 years ago. So obviously, they need to manage the resources that they have, and the students really have themselves to blame for. That is those who have the money and did not.
So they're being deferred because everyone is being lumped together. I mean, all of them. They're being deferred, forced to defer the course. How do you feel about that? Is it right or should they be singled out? I mean, some have said that it is not fair because there will also be those in there who have genuine need and have not been able to meet the need. Though, to be fair, the university has said that it has made provisions for some students who are in need, even providing laptops for some and all of that. I mean, so there's a bit of balance in there.
Yeah, there's a bit of balance, but then it also brings to mind some of the discussions that need to be had on tertiary education in this country,
right?
And funding of that tertiary education. You have scenarios where so let me rope in, like, let's say the Teacher Training Institute, etc., have free feeding, and then the universities have to bear all the costs and all of that. I think that we need to begin to look at certain discussions about how we want to run tertiary education going forward and how we can look at sustainable ways for them to be funded, whether the SNIT's loan scheme for the students can be retooled to automatically pay for tuition and things like that, whilst the students get back to work, so that the money doesn't go into the students' hands, but probably goes into paying their tuition, for example, so that some of these things can be assured without the burden or the decision being made by students to have to reroute their school fees just so that they can make something extra to survive.
Let's dig into the papers. I'll run a few more issues by you that are outside of the papers later on. But the Daily Graphic this morning says, connivance in printing textbooks offshore. Education Ministry warns of sanctions. You remember yesterday we brought you the story again from the Daily Graphic talking about how some publishers were alerting the Education Ministry that there were some among their fraternity who were conniving or receiving foreigners who were here to, sort of associate with them when it comes to these publishing activities, so that the Ghanaian publishers will outsource to them. They would produce maybe in China and other places like we know, and then it would come back as though we had printed in Ghana, but in reality, the money would have gone elsewhere. And I'm sure, I mean, we had that discussion some time back about the local publishers, publishing all our textbooks so that we can localize it. So the ministry will act appropriately if any local printer raises concerns of a publisher trying to circumvent what had been agreed on in the printing of government textbooks locally. However, it has ruled out the formation of a government task force to police the printing of the textbooks as requested by the Ghana Printers and Paper Converters Association. What do you make of this? Hello, Salom. All right, so it seems we
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, the best incentive that can be offered in a situation like this is to really have a special dispensation for printers in this country. The cost of doing their work is going to be such that they would always be priced out of higher than a lot of the foreign ones, especially if you look at printing in China and some places like South Africa, etc. The unit cost is going to be way higher. What we should probably look at is subsidizing the printing industry here locally. And like we discussed the last time, it is about bringing that equipment in, that advanced flexo printing equipment in, for those who are here to be able to afford printing and maintenance. I think that the discussion should not just be enforcement of the printing here, but whether we really want a thriving printing industry or not. Sometimes we need to look at the broader picture and to be able to solve the smaller details, which are things like these sanctions that they want. Because no matter what we do, once there is opportunity for people to print outside, believe me, they will always try to circumvent a due process to do that. And it's the local printers that would always be at a perennial disadvantage because of the fact that the dispensation in terms of taxation, in terms of regulations that affect the industry would always be against them.
Right. Let's go to page 16 of the Daily Graphic. Government releases 67.9 million to colleges of education to cater for the feeding and running of colleges of education in Ghana. The Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Duchum, who announced this at a news conference in Accra yesterday, said the government was committed to fulfilling its promises to the colleges. This comes after concerns by the National Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education, Ghana, PRINCOF, that the COEs were struggling to feed teacher trainees in the 46 colleges as funds for that had been in arrears for over 6 months. I've been taking a look at social media comments on the back of this and the release of this sum of 67.9 million Ghana cedis. And a lot of people were pointing to the fact that in this country, everything must be a knee-jerk response. 6 months, nothing had been done. There are threats, and then the right thing is done. Why does it always have to be this way, Selom?
Because we shouldn't even be paying to feed teacher trainees anyway.
Right.
We shouldn't.
And I've seen some of your comments on that.
Why should we pay them? The time that this was a thing, it was years back. If they are tertiary institutions like the universities, then the universities and the technical universities, etc., also have a right to ask or compel government to feed them. They are even the ones assured of a job, if anything at all.
Right.
And they are the ones who have the incentive or the perk to be enlisted right out of school. So why should we still be paying money to feed them? They should also be roped into a fee-paying scheme. And if that is not going to work, then they should be roped into a student's loan paying scheme where those who cannot afford can offer the student's loan to pay their school fees so that they can handle the feeding differently or independently. If we have upgraded them to tertiary institutions, then they should have, there should be some equity or parity in terms of how they are treated, what their rules are, what the rules of engagement with them are. Just like how you would have with any other technical university or any other mainstream university. So this thing about them wearing uniforms and them having all a separate regime should all change. If we want teachers and we want them to be trained just like anybody, any other professional in this country, we should begin to make do with that. 67 million cedis is a huge amount of money, which if we allowed the student, the trainee teachers to pay their school fees, the government will save that whopping amount of money to actually even improve facilities in some of these self-same tertiary institutions. So I think it's high time we stopped some of these populist promises, which really are just giant burdens or throwbacks from an era where these things were the norm. We all have to understand that some of these things aren't the norm anymore. If you want to teach, you are even assured of almost getting a job automatically. So why do you now have to be fed also in the process? And I do not sympathize with those who think that this should be done. Because we are in a situation of austerity. People are already going to be assured jobs. Other tertiary students don't get assured automatic jobs like the teachers do. So, hey, we need to, it's a painful thing, but we need to sometimes excise some of these things from the budget so that the monies can be freed for other much more pertinent, responsibilities.
Two quick stories on the international front. I just want you to react to them briefly and we'll move on to the other more papers. 2,000 Kenyan police mentally unfit to serve. That's according to their IGP, Hilary Mutyambai. He is the IGP in Kenya. And guess what? They've been proven to be medically unfit. And he says that they were actually surprised that the number was that many. And in fact, most of them, it's about their mental stability. Okay, that they are mentally unstable. And I'm just wondering, Selom, don't start giving me answers yet because I'll bring in the second story, but I'm just wondering if we did same in Ghana with some of the things we see sometimes from some police officers. You remember that police officer recently in a white shirt and a bit of mufti who was using a handheld pistol to threaten someone, you know, much bigger, much larger than he was. And without that sidearm, who knows what could have happened. So put that into perspective. The second story, Nigerian minister jailed for embezzlement of public funds, and the Nigerian Minister of Communication, Mr. Mahmoud Zada, has been jailed for his alleged involvement in a high-profile embezzlement case. The amount involves 3 billion CFA francs, more than 4.5 million euros, when he was managing a public company, Société de Patrimoine des Mines du Niger, between 2013 and 2021, a judicial source told the AFP yesterday. Again, I'm wondering why we don't see many more of these in a place like Ghana, where we are supposed to be the bastion of democracy. Over to you, Selom. Two quick issues to look at.
Your French sounds impeccable.
We try.
You know, even before we try mentally checking our police here, but this story is hilarious, by the way. Let's start.
And you say it's hilarious. Hilariously, the IGP's name is Hillary. So,
look, we don't even need to start with mental fitness. Let's just take a breathalyzer and go around all the police stations in the country and do a simultaneous test. A snap simultaneous test. I'm sure that the results will shock a lot of us.
Wow. You mean a lot of them would be likely intoxicated? The very people who say you shouldn't be intoxicated while going about your daily activities like driving.
I beg, no be me talk. But, you know, especially off the urban areas, there are so many instances where even villagers will allude to the fact that there's a particular policeman who is always going to a particular kiosk at a certain time for a regular supply. And these things really do happen quite a lot. So I think that just as the Kenyans have done, we probably should also begin to look at some of these for our own policemen to ensure that we remove or we are able to rehabilitate some of them, because looking at the current mistrust of the public in certain members of the the service. I mean, quite a lot of them have exemplary characters. We should never discount that. There are quite a lot of capable men and women in the service. There are also quite a few questionable characters popping up. So I believe that this assessment is something that we should emulate here. Not only just for inquisitorial purposes, but even sometimes just to be able to help those who need help, because police service people are just like all of us with different individual challenges, etc. So I think some of these things are important such that they can help maintain the peace and discharge their duties, just like anybody else is required.
On the Nigerian minister's bid, corruption.
I applaud the Nigerian government. I hope some of us here would take a cue from that. But knowing this country and our level of political patronage and the fact that people in the party, in the power, never do any wrong, to the extent that even when their hands are caught in the cookie jar, they say that no, their hands are behind the cookie jar. It's what you see is an illusion. And then when they move their hands and they are stained with the cookies, they say, oh, it's the wind that blew the cookie dust onto their hands. We are a country of hypocrites, to be very honest. And the biggest hypocrites are those who defend their colleagues in government just so that they want the government to look good by all means possible, forgetting that the government actually looks good when it seeks to purge the miscreants or the who do the misdemeanors in the government. But we are in a state of play where we believe that a ruling government never does any wrong. Even when the people do wrong, they are still rewarded by being transferred, sometimes to even what people perceive as bigger positions. So there is no there's no deterrent to doing anything out of the norm, because it is guaranteed that the clan will take care of you.
Sad situation, but it is what it is. It is just as you said it. Let's wrap in the next 4 minutes or so, Salom, with these few stories. Economy grows 5.4% in 2021 as debt to GDP drops to 76.4%. But I want to tie this into the latest global info analytics. We're discussing that later on the show today, but it talks about what people are looking at going into election 2024 and even now. And interestingly, just as in 2016, we have the economy as number one. We have unemployment as a second issue. We have corruption in there, though it is more of a minor issue now. When you look at how we've handled all of these situations, the president's rating has fallen. The president's, the party's popularity is not too good. I'm talking about the NPP. And generally, people are, from the report, very discontent. How do you react to it? I don't know whether you've seen it, but your quick reaction.
I've not seen it, but that's a fair reflection. There's been a lot of despondent feelings towards people's perception of the government managing its activities. The government has also, or members of the government have also been tone deaf in their public utterances with respect to what people are going through. And overall, the narrative hasn't been one that has been very sympathetic to the plight of people. So it is very clear that once this resonates, the reality resonates and balances against the rhetoric, you would have a lot of these kinds of sentiments abounding to the extent that it can scientifically be gauged or measured in a way. So whilst the indicators are quite good in terms of the growth forecasts and then the growth figures, it has also come at the expense of general social welfare or general social, I would say, progress. It looks like we are more concerned as a country about the macro figures than some of the other more micro indicators that actually signify or signal individual well-being. Sometimes we also need to understand that the well-being of individuals or multiple individuals, or the majority of individuals, then resonates to a national feeling of goodwill. But where you have a lot of people not believing they are getting the best from the government individually, even if the fiscal or the overall macro figures look good, the dissatisfaction will still remain. And it's up to the government to really look at some of these findings through them very well and discuss amongst themselves the best ways to improve the feeling of the general public and their aspirations.
All right. To wrap the conversation, our time is up, but the Daily Guide, 5 grabbed over mob justice, Nana consoles Dag Heward-Mills, Mahama exit, best for NDC, and NPP welcomes EIU report. The Daily Statesman this morning says 3.5 million Ghanaians to have internet access by 2023, debt sustainability stabilizes, and of course, economy, jobs, education, topmost priorities of Ghanaians. Maybe your final take, Salom, on this point. So the info analytics, global info analytics as well, the ratings of former President Mahama are on the rise, even from January. So when you look at April, first quarter, they are on the rise. And it is assumed, per the poll that was conducted, that whether he faces off with Dr. Bawumia or Alan Kyerematen, he is going to win. Is that a feel, a temperature that, from where you sit, you would corroborate, or should we have to wait till 2024? Very briefly on that.
Yeah, historical data shows that Ghana's election cycles have been usually 8 years, regardless of who's on top. And so a lot of people mentally are even psyched for an 8-year change. That is why Bawumia's major campaign, or the NPP's major campaign mantra, has been breaking the 8. However, they themselves, as a party, if they would assess themselves very well, are doing everything to ensure that the 8 is not broken by themselves. And therefore, while some of us say it and we are the messengers who are shot, maybe the EIU is probably the only messenger that hasn't been shot so far. And it's very welcoming that the sentiments that we have expressed based on what we observe have been corroborated by entities such as those. It is all serves to not as a political context, but the overall objective should be why the Ghanaian should not live at the expense of some of these things. If the average Ghanaian is satisfied, or if you look at the long expense of things, if the Ghanaian is satisfied with what he has no reason to complain or no reason to be unhappy with situations. But as it is right now, it's a different thing. So, let's see how they take it and what they do with it.
Salom, always a pleasure. Top of the morning to you, and do have a wonderful day. Maunayra.
You too.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that is Salom Brantia, policy analyst. He's with Imani Africa, who joined us to discuss the issues. But up next, we're discussing sports. Do stay.
It was here on this platform on a Monday when a board member of Accra House of Folk announced the club was going to file a protest at the Ghana Football Association against match day referee for a Super Clash, Kenny Pardee. Well, the match review panel of the Ghana Football Association have released their statement, and Kenny Pardee has been suspended for the rest of the season for awarding what they described as a dubious decision in favor of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, and the coaching situation of the Ghana Black Stars will soon be resolved per General Secretary of the Ghana Football Association, Prosper Harrison Addo. We had an exclusive conversation with him, and we talked some Premier League news where Manchester City is back to the summit of the table. We've got this and many more here on the AM Sports with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. welcome. But let's start with local stories, where referee Kenny Pardee has been suspended for the rest of the Ghana Premier League season after what the match day panel described as a dubious decision to award Kumasi Asante Kotoko a penalty in the Super Clash. According to the match review panel, referee Kenny Pardee did not provide substantive reasons why he awarded the Porcupines a penalty, after earlier indicating that the attacker, the person of Nuruddin Ahmed, had stepped on the foot of Fabio Gama, but changed his position when he was called to appear before the committee. There's more in this report.
In the 14th minute of play, referee Kennedy Pardee awarded a dubious penalty to Asante Kotoko when Hasselhoff player Nuruddin Abdulaziz won a 50-50 ball in their 18-yard box from Fabio Gama, number 10 of Asante Kotoko. The referee insisted that the Hearts player stepped on the foot of the Kotoko player, which he later agreed that there was no stopping of foot. After watching the video, he then defended that there was a push and pull at a point, which the video clearly showed it was not the case. Per the video watched in relation to the 14-minute incident, player number 24 of Hartlepool challenged player number 10 of Asante Kotoko fairly. There was no foul committed, which warranted any penalty. The hand on the back of the attacker had no impact on the attacker. More so, the attacker should not have fallen backwards if the fall was because of the hand of the defender. Obviously, it was not a push, so falling backwards suggests a premeditated attempt to fake a foul. The GFA review panel also considered some factors. One, if there was pushing as claimed by the referee, they did not see any movement of the arm from the back to forward, meaning no hand movement. Two, neither pulling movement from back to front. Three, the attacker was already throwing himself down in a completely strange way. 4. If there was pulling or pushing as claimed by the referee, the attacker should have fallen on the face and not with his back as seen in the video. The video also showed quite a number of inconsistencies in his decisions during his officiating of the match, especially after the penalty incident. The referee lost concentration.
And let's talk about the Black Stars coaching situation. And General Secretary of the football governing body, Harrison Prosper Addo, has revealed that GFA would soon appoint a technical team to oversee the Black Stars for the African Cup of Nations qualifiers 2023, as well as the FIFA World Cup that will be staged in Qatar. He had this conversation with my colleague, Haruna Mubarak.
What I can say is that engagements are going on, and that once conclusions are reached, we will announce to the generality of Ghanaians. We know this is one of the key things we need to conclude, and then to move on to the other things. And so work is ongoing. There's no use saying too much when we can just wait and then get the full blessing or otherwise, and then we can inform Ghanaians appropriately. You see, when you are in official positions, you can't speculate, and so we can only talk the facts. So as of today, the position is that engagements are going on. Once concluded, immediately we'll announce to Ghanaians and then move on from there. But what I can assure is that work is already going on. People, I've heard one or two people say that, oh, they are delaying and that there's no work going on. No, the national team doesn't function like that. Work goes on irrespective. There are a number of things going on.
And Didi Drama, Chris Hutton, George Martin.
Everything about the technical team of the Black Stars.
And let's hear from skipper of the national team, Andre Ayew. He's answering questions of many critics who claim that a captain of the Black Stars should not be playing in the UAE. He disagrees with them, saying that his predecessor, Asamoah Gyan, has his best national career whilst playing in the UAE.
Like I said, he was the one who told me that the league there is not easy at all. It's very hard, and we could see it because...
You mean Asamoah Gyan?
Yeah, Asamoah Gyan, yes. We could see that his moments when he was in Alain was when he scored the most goals for the Black Stars. So when you look at all that, I was like, yeah, it's true. So, you know, he went there, made a massive impact, not just in the UAE League, but in the whole of the Gulf. When you look at his statistics in the Ghana Black Stars, when he came to Alain was when he had the most goals for the Ghana Black Stars and broke most of the records that he broke. So, and he made an impact also at the World Cup playing in Alain. So for me, I think looking at what he has done, looking at what other players has done, there is a level there, and you know, if I have the opportunity to take it and be able to be in one of the biggest clubs in the Gulf, I'll take it.
But let's talk about boxing now, where just a couple of weeks ago, Ghanaian boxer Emmanuel the Game Boy Tego lost his fight to Mexican Ryan Garcia. Well, he claimed that he had an injury in his right hand and doctors advised he should withdraw from the fight. However, he felt he could beat his opponent with one hand.
My right hand go very well, but I don't get lucky for weighing time. The weighing time, I hurt my hand again, but after that, my people talk to me a lot. Now, me and you, we don't get option. We want to quit to leave this fight because I don't think my coach told me this. I say, coach, trust me. I know what I can do. I can use my left hand to beat Ryan Garcia. Trust me. I promise you, because I talk a lot with Ghanaians. I promised Ghanaians a lot before I came here. If you Ghanaians here, I don't fight this fight. People talk a lot about me because always some of Ghanaians, you don't believe me. People too believe me. Let me prove myself
to them.
Them. Now, coach say, okay, Tego, if you say this, I hear you. Let me push you to do our best. I go hospital. The doctor told me like my hand, if he accept to use my hand, my hand can take like almost maybe 1 month, or by the time.
Wow. Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get on to our big stories for the morning. And we're going to be talking about that second national tracking poll conducted by the Global Information Analytics, or Global Info Analytics. And they've been talking about quite a number of things, from corruption to the economy to unemployment to myriad other matters. One thing I found surprising when they conducted this poll in terms of leadership, on that scale, they were talking about the fact that the least that they are looking at, in fact, the one with the least percentage, less than 1%, had to do with their expectations of selecting a presidential candidate on the basis of that person being from their part of the country. And it is interesting. But we'll be joined shortly by the Technical Director, Office of the President, Dr. Kabiru Mahama, together with Musa Dankwa of the Global Info Analytics, as well as Professor Ransford Jampo as well. But just to give you a bit of a teaser, so this survey highlights a number of matters, including the approval and disapproval ratings of Mr. President, and they have sunk lower than we saw in January. Again, when you look at the analytics when it comes to how this government is performing in terms of managing the economy or dealing with corruption, again, the levels of acceptance or approval are taking a tumble. It also analyzes the fortunes of the NPP going into election 2024 as it pegs the two major candidates we know so far, though they have not officially come out to put themselves forward. I'm talking about the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, versus John Dramani Mahama, former president. Again, Minister for Trade and Industry, Alan Kyerematen, versus the former president. So we're going to take a quick look at this poll. And I'll start with Musa Dankwa. I believe I've seen him somewhere in there. Mr. Dankwa, a very good morning to you. Do we have Mr. Dankwa on the line? All right, so we'll try to connect with him. Hello, Mr. Dankwa, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. We'll also try to get Dr. Mahama, Technical Director, Office of the Vice President, and Professor Jampo as well. Dr. Mahama, a very good morning to you, if you can hear me.
Very good morning to you.
Pleasure having you. We'll also have Professor Ransford Jampo, who has quite an interesting take on this bit. But let me start with you, Musa Dankwa. So you've been doing this for a while. And what exactly informed this latest poll, this latest survey that you have put together? And let me just let you know that some people have said that your methodology may not exactly be grounded in what is required for this kind of exercise. I would like, first of all, the rationale behind this, and then a bit of a breakdown of your methodology.
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, I think we said to Ghanaians, this is not the first time we've done a national tracking poll. We've done a couple in 2020, and this is the second time we're doing that for 2022. And we said that from now till 2024, we'll be carrying out quarterly tracking polls. So Ghanaians will know what's actually going on within the political sphere, and as well as on issues that matter to Ghanaians, on corruption, on performance of the president, on the direction of the country, on many other issues that we think is relevant for people of Ghana to know about. In terms of methodology, in fact, I'm not quite sure where people are faulting us in terms of methodology, in the sense that we did the first tracking poll in January, where we selected about 34 constituencies based on some convenience sampling. And it was for a reason. This time around, we did 68 constituencies. 34 of them were the same places we went last time for a reason. We wanted to see if we repeat the same poll there, what would happen in those specific places. Then we selected additional 34 based on random simulation that we ran using our model. So the extra 34 that were added were selected randomly based on the total number of seats we have in the country. So we didn't have hand in picking those. But going forward in July, everything will be random based. So we have admit that an element of it is convenient, but another 50% of it is entirely probability sampling.
All right. So per all the information you have got, and there are so many sectors involved, from the economy to development to politics and all of that. What would be your summary of what this event is? Because especially when it comes to, for example, the approval rating of the president, it's taken a bit of a tumble when it comes to the fight against corruption, the expectations of the people in terms of how sure they are that government can deal with the situation, how sure they are that government can manage the economy, how sure they are when it comes to infrastructure development. All of these have taken a tumble. So per what you have done, analyzing it, what would be your overarching remark or summary remarks on it in less than a minute, if you can?
All right. I think what we are seeing is a reflection of the situation on the ground.
Okay, which is what?
People. Looking at people who are saying that their living standard has gotten worse, that has fed into everything that they said subsequent to that. That affected the president approval rating, affected people who think we are in the right direction, and indeed impacted on the race between Alan and Mahmoud Bawumia, as well as the other candidates of MPP against John Mahama. So
right.
It is the bottom line of the situation in the country that is really feeding into these polling numbers.
Okay, so basically for you, it's a fair reflection of what we're seeing. Let me move to Dr. Mahama now and engage him. How have you seen this particular poll, and what is your initial reaction to it? Looking at the fact that it puts your administration in a very dim light. What's your quick reaction?
All right, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers and to my co-panelists. Mr. Musa Dankwa and then Mr. Dr. Ransford Jampo. I think that research is very important to our discourses because a government or as a people, the findings of research inform policy. In fact, it informs even people as a kind of taste, desires, preferences, and even the state of affairs. But when doing research, you need to adhere strictly to certain ethics. You need to adhere strictly to certain standards. You need to adhere strictly to certain procedures. If you don't follow these procedures, if you don't abide by these guiding principles of research, and you conduct the research and bring findings, the findings cannot stand the test of time. And with the greatest of respect, I think that it's good that Mr. Musa admitted that they are learning. And this is the second of his series. But this current research, with the greatest of respect, this was poorly done. I can list not less than 5, 6, 7 technical errors.
So let's quickly get into that. Let's quickly get into that.
Yeah, inherent in that. For instance, let's start with sampling. Sampling is the mother source of validity of any research finding.
Right.
If you get your sampling wrong, you get the research wrong.
We're looking at over 5,000 people.
Yes, so the 5,000 people, they are telling us they are using a confidence interval of 99. If you are using a confidence interval of 99, invariable, your margin of error is 1%. And if you are using that to calculate, you should get at least 16,500 respondents. And I'm making it a challenge that if you are telling me you are using a confidence interval of 99%, and that with this particular confidence interval, even if we assume that we don't know the total population of voters because the last register is different from this register, and you are using that particular 99%, invariably your margin of error is 1%, and that will give you a minimum of 16,500 respondents. You are interviewing 5,232 respondents. That is problematic. 2, when you are looking at you are using either even the Andrew Fisher's formula for sample size determination. Again, the minimum you could get, assuming that you are using they are using the 99% level of confidence. The Z-score for that one will be 2.576, and a standard deviation of 0.5 because you don't know the nature of this particular population. You will have no less than 16,000 respondents. So from your population, so you interview 5,000. It cannot be right. The wrong sampling method. For instance, you combine convenience sampling with probability sampling. Purposive, random and non-random sampling are 2 different methods, and they are used to address 2 different objectives of a research finding. You combine them and answer one objective of a pool, which it is problematic because this is actually my first time I'm seeing a researcher combining data that was gathered using purposive sample or convenience sample, they call it, and combining it with a probability sample. Almost half of the data was made by random. And let me explain a bit. When you gather data using a purposive sampling, you cannot generalize for the population. That's a fact, and that is a basic issue in research that we all know that if you use convenience sampling, you cannot by any stretch of imagination try to extrapolate that, try to infer that that is a reflection of the population that you are studying. So it is only in probability sampling, random sampling, that we can be able to infer, to generalize for the population. So that is another problem. We look at also the issue of the resultant effect of those particular sampling error. You find out that there were more NDC people among the respondents than any other category of political parties. And if you have more NDC respondents answering questions about the economy, answering questions about party issue, about general development issue or direction of the country, you will definitely have a problem. There is also the unmitigated effect of the higher NDC representation, in the sense that if you look at the question about, you see the response on how people will vote. if you have many people who are NDC, political affiliated to the NDC, let me, with the greater respect, say that from what they have said, they didn't know that there were going to be more NDC people in the sample than any other particular political party. But as a researcher, when you do and you find out that the representation of a particular group is more than that of others, you control for it, so that your results would be reflective of the general, not that a view of a particular political party. They didn't control for that. That is problematic in this particular research. There are also issues of respondent.
Doesn't take away. I get the point you're making. These control mechanisms in any poll or survey must be taken stock of. But you would notice even when it talks about NPP members and their acceptance, for example, or how they rate the current administration, the performance of the president, about 50% of them are not satisfied with what is being done, and another 50% are satisfied. So give or take, is it not still reflective of the facts on the ground?
I'll come, maybe if we ask, I'll come to the specifics of this particular result, if time will afford us. But having to comment about the general issues about research we find problematic, I think that it is important to point them out so that in their learning curve, they will be able to fix them. We will want research that is genuine. For instance, if you also ask very question, for instance, how is this country, the direction of this particular country, is a very, very question. Direction in which way? Is it about, direction about the general management of the economy? Direction about people's well-being? Direction about what? And if you ask respondents such a question, you will elicit or you will get different responses, which probably will not be exactly what you are looking for.
But Dr. Mahama, hold it right there. They go into the specifics when it comes to the economy and its management, when it comes to developmental issues, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to corruption. There is a breakdown in the poll, but you would also understand that sometimes you can ask generally, how do you feel about leadership in a country? Even in the United States, those questions are posed. What is wrong with that?
I'm saying that there's everything wrong with that, because if you ask a very vague question, you get very vague responses. And when you get such vague responses, and then that forms as one of the, because Joy News even carried out that 67% of Ghanaians think that we're heading in the wrong direction. You understand? So we need to, I want to, even if government, to inform government intervention, what will it be when we say wrong direction? What do they mean? Before government can even be able to intervene, to be able to take policy measures that will be able to address the situation. But if we don't have that, and we are just, I'll come to the specific about corruption. The question on corruption was clear.
Okay,
the question
so for now,
was clear. The question on...
Dr. Mahama, I just want the general bit, because we'll get into the specifics. I don't want us to be mixing them together. So just wrap with your take on the general bit.
So the issue of, again, the last but one is you did a cross-sectional survey in January and did another one in April. That is clearly instantaneous cross-sectional data collection. The issue about January versus first quarter is to create a particular perception, which I think is problematic. You don't analyze data that conveniently, because you gather data in January, you gather another data in April, you analyze the two instances, you analyze the two cross-sectional data. When you are analyzing that, you try to put that in context that these are two different times, but not a quarter versus a month. That I think is worth pointing out in this particular
But in January, there was a particular reflection, and in April, at the end of the first quarter, so the start and the end of the quarter, and it's interesting because, for example, when you look at the January data, you would see that when it comes to leadership of the NPP, for example, Dr. Bawumia was, leading by some 7-8 percentage points. The tides have turned. And now it is Ala Chemating who is leading for your party with some 12, regions out of 16 per the poll, inching towards him. So there are vast differences when it comes to the president's acceptability or approval rating. It is same. When it comes to either candidate, whether Bawumia or Allen versus the former president Mahama, it changes. So there are changes across the board in everything.
No, let me even tell the problem with that. You want to compare who is leading for a political party. You go to interview more NDC people. You go to interview more people who are not even delegates. How can you get the right information?
But voters are all the same. Voters all the same.
Right information.
Voters all the same on the register. Voters all the same.
No, voters are not the same. Voters for presidential primaries is different from voters for a general election.
You're not getting my point. I am saying voters all the same. Whether or not they are what you're saying, they are voters. They were on the electoral roll.
With the greatest respect, they are not the same. With the greatest respect, they are not the same. Let me tell you why they are not the same. When you are doing a research, you have a target population. The reason why you choose a target population is because of the objective of your research. So you cannot say that because all voters are the same, I want to find out about opinion on morality, and I
think you're still missing my point. Maybe it's the phrase I am using. I am saying voters all the same. In other words, they are also voters. They are still voters. I am not contesting what you're saying. I think you're missing my point.
No, the point is that voters all the same is to weather down the mistake of the focus. And I think that I need to stress on that, because if you say voters all the same, it means that they are voters nonetheless. So they could be interviewed. I mean, that is my understanding of what you are trying to. So this is a fatal mistake that I think we don't. Again, you want to compare people. You put John Mahama, you put Alan Chiramente, you put Bogumia for people to determine who they want. Clearly, two MPP people against one MPP people. The voters of the MPP people will be divided.
Okay, so point made. I think your general view on this is clear. So in other words, just to clarify as well, the MPP does not accept this, because when it comes to the EIU release recently, your people have accepted it. I mean, I spoke to Evans Nimako and others. In this instance, are you saying that when it comes to Global Info Analytics and what they've done, you do not subscribe to it? You do not accept it? Is that what you're saying?
As a baseline, they've done a very poor job with the greatest of respect. If they do a good job, we are really, despite how bad the results will be for the MPP or for the government, we are willing to accept it. But under this current analysis, with this current statistics on the political bit, I'm highlighting on the political bit because they made the wrong target. They did wrong comparison. They didn't compare cases or cases biases. They didn't control for them, and the results can never be the true reflection of the situation.
All right. I don't know yet. Professor Jampo, are you with us? All right. We don't have Professor Jampo yet. Let me come back to Musa Dankwa. So how do you react to these, even before we get into the specifics, very quickly? Your methodology has been questioned. It is being, dragged in the mud. How do you react?
First and foremost, I think people who do normal research, academic research, tend to confuse that research with opinion polling. Methodology and processes are governed by, in fact, we follow a standard set by U.S. Association of Pollsters. So we are driven and guided by those methodologies that have been widely used in the U.S., which we know are the leading kind of industry when it comes to polling in the world. Now, in terms of our convenience sampling and probability sampling, that is why we selected additional fields that are entirely problematic, so we can analyze. So if you don't want the convenience sampling, look at the random sample element and see what those numbers are saying. The reason why we wanted to do that was that we wanted to confirm from the original situation whether things have changed in those places. Now, in terms of data, look, in the US, the entire US is polled on daily basis. And the sample size for US polling is not more than 1,500. So once the tools
and this is a country of about 400 million people.
Absolutely. So the volume of 16,000 data doesn't make sense statistically. But we use the EC register sampling frame. So if we look at the places that we interviewed, the total population for those areas we interviewed was around 4.5 million voters. When you use that as a basis to establish the sample size, we are dead accurate. And that gives us 1.7% margin of error. So you have to look at the tools we use. I mean, none of them, as we speak, the MPP hasn't gotten in touch with us to see how it will work. What approach did we use? They haven't spoken to us yet. They are sitting down there talking about criticisms, but we take it quite frankly in the spine.
And do you feel, before you go on with the points, I just have to ask, do you feel it is being, shredded, torn to shreds, because by and large, practically everything in this 14-page report goes against the ruling administration? Do you think that is the reason it is being, torn to shreds?
Absolutely.
Right.
Because I sincerely believe that they may have their own internal polling data, that would collaborate if they are honest with the findings we have here. Absolutely. You know, and then in terms of number of NDC, look, we have seen a dramatic shift. This is the first time we've done any polling in this country. NDC has outnumbered MPP by 2%. All the time we've done, MPP has been ahead. Now, the reason this is happening is that we have seen a new block of voters who are not saying they're MPP or NDC or PPP or PNC or CPP. And they have moved to a different block called other parties. We don't believe any of those people belong to the smaller parties other than these big four. So these are people who have abandoned the two main parties to form a new bloc. They haven't gone to join the floating voters, but they're saying other parties. And we know who they are from the analysis we've done. So that is why MPP numbers are shrunk. People have moved away from MPP into a new bloc.
Okay, so I just did the calculation here, and if you take 2% of the 5,120 or so that you used, it amounts to some 102.4. So it would mean that the difference out of the 5,000 plus, 5,100 and something, the difference would actually be the 100 and something. In other words, we'd have about 2,500 who are from who are of NDC stock, so to speak, in between there. And then about the same number who are of MPP stock. That's what you're basically telling me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that number didn't make any difference to the outcome of the survey. Now, if you look at critically, the floating voters and NDC, they are in addendum. So if you don't believe in what the NDC guys are saying, what about the floating voters? And mind you, we didn't determine your political party before we speak to them. We spoke to them about their demographics after they've answered all these questions, so that we don't have interference of disclosing their party affiliation having impact on the other polling questions.
Okay, so let me do this as I go back to Dr. Mahama. I want us to get into some of the points that are made, crucial points that are made. And you've got a response from Musa Dankwa in terms of the methodology and the standards they hold themselves to. But let's look at some of the things this poll says. Let's walk through them and tell me where you disagree. So from the very start, when it talks about approval or disapproval for the performance of the president, you would notice that in January, the president's approval rating stood at some 34%. In April, it is now standing at about 27%, okay? And when you look at the disapproval rating as well, it stood at 58% in January. It's now standing at 67%. You also go further. I just want you to put, because there's quite a lot to digest here. You also look at whether the country, and something you dispute because you say the wording is vague, whether the country is headed in the right direction or the wrong direction. Again, those who say right direction in January were 33%. Those who said wrong direction in January were 58%. But when you come to the April figure, those who are now saying the country is heading in the right direction are only 26%. That's a marginal loss of about 7 percentage points. And that is added now to those who say that the country is moving in the wrong direction, 67%. Of course, there are some 9% and 7% based on the respective values who said they didn't have an opinion. And just to wrap, so you can give me an answer. Again, how they would rank the performance of government. Interesting, because those who said in January, the baseline, poll, 7% said excellent, 32% said very good or good, on average 24%, and those who said government was faring poorly or very poorly in terms of its performance were 37%. But come to the April figure. Those who are saying government is performing excellently have dropped by 2%, so from 7% in January to 5% now. Then you look at those who are saying government is faring good or very good. It has dropped from 32% to 24%. Those who say it is average have dropped from 24% to 23%, marginal. But here's where it gets interesting. Those who said in January that government was performing poorly or very poorly were 37%. Now it stands at 48%. Is this conveying any message to you, Dr. Mahama?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that I will just proceed on the basis that, I mean, the writing was done and try to answer this question because, I mean,
that's exactly the premise I want us to adopt.
Premise
you've already said that you have your challenges with it. So let's operate on that premise.
I mean, the explanation given are not quite good. I just hope that you take into consideration this particular practice and do a good job later. But on governance performance,
right,
as one of the issues that has been raised, and academic across the country, approval ratings of governments, especially on the back of several things that have happened over the last quarter, have dropped across the globe. It's not just Ghana. So as a person, as an academic and objective one as that, I would not be surprised that if at the polls, Ghanaians' approval rating of a government performance is doing it, because we are having a situation where prices of crude oil is increasing, cost of living is going high. I mean, we had foreign exchange problem. All these factors, I mean, brought untold hardship to people. The very first refuge is to blame the government for that. Right. And people would then channel that particular frustration to blame a government. So to have the performance of a government going down, it will not come to as a surprise to anyone, or I mean, any objective observer looking at the state of affairs. But we have to also know that quite a good number of people still have at least, I tell you, more than half of the people think the government has performed averagely well. More than half of the people feel that the performance of the government is either average or above average, either excellent or very good. That is something that we must also be looking at and to suggest that it is not just a bad picture of concentrating on only 48% of people who think that they have performed poor, but there are a good number of people who think the government has either done excellent or done very good, or on the average has performed well. So these are some of the narrative that we must also look at this particular data when we are analyzing this particular issue. You ask yourself, what will be the position of the people who say their government has performed averagely well or has performed average? A performance of government is average. If things change in the next 2 months, obviously it can't be very good or excellent. So that is, if things deteriorate, they are likely to also move further to the very poor section. So that is something that government is paying attention to. Of course, the bad rating by the people who say government performance is very poor will be acknowledged. But the situation does not suggest that. I mean, there's total despair, there's total lack of hope in the government performance, and there's absolutely
when you have 48%, and we're operating on the understanding that this poll is above the board, that it meets the standards. We are operating on that level. When you have a poll telling you that 48% of respondents are saying you have performed either poorly or very poorly, and others are giving you average, and very few are giving you an excellent performance, what does that mean to you?
What that means is that majority of the Ghanaian populace think that government performance on the average is good, whilst a good number, at least 48%, which is also close to half, not up to half, think the government has performed poorly.
I disagree with you. You are a doyen in this, so let's break it down. 48% say you've performed poorly or very poorly. Add that to those who feel you've performed averagely, about 23%. If you strike the balance, it would definitely be more than half, even considering those who say you are good or very good, which is at 24%, and excellent, which is at 5%.
It's not more than half. It's not more than half. If you take the average, you are looking at 71%. Half of that is not more than half. So the analysis is wrong. It is 30%, even if you take that. Okay.
Are you adding the poor, very poor to the average and you know,
I'm adding
striking them?
The poor, very poor. And I'm saying that the total will be 71% of the people. That is why if you're just taking the average of the percentage, that's what I'm saying, that it is not more than half. That is the point I'm stretching. And I'm saying that you are looking at it from even the negative perspective. So if we assume to look at it from the positive perspective and know that these people who have rated this government on the average to have performed good, You should also look at it from the very, you have to add that to that of the very good and the excellent to track the average. And you know that that performer is more than
I am not taking that out, but I was saying that when you look at the chunk, so let's look at the 100%. You have a 48% value, a 23% value, then 24 and 5%. Let's do the math and find out. Are you trying to tell me that when you add the good or very good to the excellent, so the excellent is 5%. The very good or good is 24%. That caters for maybe those who are saying average because that is 23%. And then the poor or very poor is 48%. I say, well, so let's do this. Let's strike an average on this and tell me where it leans towards, whether it is positive or negative. Do that for us, please.
We have 24%. We have 23%. That gives us 47%. You have 5%. That gives us in total the 5%. That gives us 52% thereabout, or 52% thereabout. So that is the total of those particular people. So if we take the average,
how are you weighting the average? Are you weighting it positively or negatively? Because I don't feel it is. It's for me, it is split right down the middle.
Yeah. So that's the point. That's what I'm saying. That the safer way to go about this particular disagreement is to leave the average standing alone.
Okay.
And compare the excellent and then the very, well, what do you call it, the very good. That probably will be what you will be going for. But in all fairness, in all sincerity, you don't say that a government that has rated, I mean, a person who has performed averagely well, you can say that the person has not done anything. The problem then is the poor and very poor. The poor means that you've not done to the expert. You've not done so well. And so to want to take away the people who say government has performed averagely in the midst of all these challenges is to just try to push government to saying that, we don't appreciate what the government is doing.
Okay, let's take a quick look at this. The e-levy, it is crucial. And we've all seen, I mean, some of the constraints it has faced in Parliament, and now the motion at the Apex Court as well. But it's really informative and instructive, the sort of responses people gave. When you look at those who say that there will be no effect on how they use Momo, it stands at 9%. For those who say they will find an alternative to avoid the tax, it stands at 18%. For those who say they will use it only when it is absolutely necessary, it stands at, interestingly, 40%. You put that side by side with those who are saying they will completely withdraw their funds, 26%, and those who will say will even stop using mobile money altogether, 7%. Now, on the negative end, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't use Momo. Okay, so they are not even in the bracket, so let's take them out. Those who are going to withdraw their funds, 26%. Those who will find an alternative to avoid the tax, that is another 18%. That gives us what? 44%. And then there is those who say they'll only use it when it is absolutely necessary. So you could strike an average there and say what? 20%. It doesn't look good, does it?
Yeah, I think that the issues of the e-levy has been met with several perspectives. It's omnispectral in nature. And I think that these findings are so true, it gives room for concern. However, government has, over the time, has known that there's going to be, a change in behavior of the affected persons. That is the sender of this particular Momo or the sender of this particular, those doing transaction electronically. Government was clear on that. And before you even introduce any tax policy, you have to probably anticipate the change in behavior. And the finance ministry had even come out to say that people who try to avoid the payment of tax, there were certain measures that were supposed to be taken. But on the balance, how long will people keep on keeping money on their cash? The issue of Momo, when discussed, to also be looked at it from the perspective of, electronic transaction as a whole. If a person stays at Nsawam, and I have to go to, let me say Accra, I have to go to, Medina to deliver money to someone by cash. I'll take Uber. I'll take Trotro. I'll make some cost. Compared to the cost of having to send it online or electronically. You have to strike the balance. And the balance was of the view that this will favor people who want convenience, people who think that they want to cut down time in order to be much more productive. And this tax is actually geared towards those particular people who find convenience in the use of electronic transaction. People who use Momo or electronic transaction as a necessity probably would have to find other ways. And that is okay, but the curve will flatten along the line. And my expectation is that the needed government revenues from this particular measure may not entirely be met because of these particular findings and because of probably the consumer or the affected person's behavior. But on the whole, it will flatten and people will get back to it as business as usual. People were trying to avoid VAT when it was introduced,
right? But
it became a norm as we go on.
Hold for me. I'll come back right to you when we talk about corruption. But let me also bring in Musa Dankwah. I want to find out, when it comes to the judiciary, it is interesting there as well because the approval ratings of the judiciary, and then you segregate that away from that of the Supreme Court specifically. Just to give the data, you ask about the level of confidence of the respondents in the judiciary. Now, there was very high or high, which was 24%, neutral, which was 30%, and then low or very low, which was 46%, surprisingly. Then you get to the Supreme Court and you ask what their level of confidence in its ability to deal with political cases without fear or favor. And there it is almost reflective of the same pattern, 26% very high or high, neutral 27%, and low or very low 47%. You are the pollster, but did this strike you as surprising?
No, I don't think we were surprised. In fact, we were expecting that the Supreme Court would fare worse than the judiciary as a whole.
Why?
But because it was in the news at the time. So sometimes when you are in the field and these news are kind of prevailing, it tends to overbear on voters. So we felt that should have been higher than what we saw. But yet still, you could see that it performed worse than the entire judiciary by 1 point, which is not that huge in terms of those who think it is very low or low in terms of confidence.
All right. Let me come back to Dr. Mahama and just hold for me, Musa. I'll be coming in as and when I need some clarity on some matters. Corruption. I bring up this matter because apart from the economy, and of course this feeds into the economy, which was a very pivotal issue, especially in 2016, yes, to some extent in 2020, and now heading into 2024, it is a major issue. But in there as well is corruption. When you look at the state of corruption in Ghana and what people think, those who think it has improved in January were 23%. Those who feel it has improved in this current study are only 14%. Those who feel it was worse than previously were 43% in January. Now they are 54% worse. Those who think things are practically same in January were 29%, in April 23%. And those who had no opinion, respectively, 5% in January, 9% in April. But those who feel it is worse, 54%. Does your party, the NPP, have any statistics? Have you conducted any surveys of your own on corruption and how people feel about it, apart from the perception indexes and all of that? And does it point to anything different from what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I'm not privy to any government sponsored survey on issue of corruption. And even if there was one, the public probably would treat it with some contempt because it comes from government assessing its own self. So that I am not, but on the corruption issue is very emotive one. The debate of corruption is always been emotive, and the perception of it thrives more than the reality of it, because it is quite common for people to be accused of corruption when in actual case there is only a perception that exists. And I'm happy that the pollster mentioned that they are doing opinion, and this opinion mapping might not necessarily be the reality. But this government, in the fight for corruption or a fight against corruption, has taken a lot of steps. And these steps, it's quite unfortunate that sometimes we don't even have this discussion in the context of the effort the government. We know that corruption is a systemic issue. It's been with us for a very long time. People have tried several years. People lost their lives. I mean, over issues of corruption. During revolution, people were sent to the Foreign Court, even with kangaroo courts being set up in order to address issues of corruption. Nonetheless, it still persists. Government upon government has been accused of corruption. But we need to look at what steps has each government taken in order to mitigate the impact or the effect or the prevalence of corruption in the Ghanaian society.
Right.
When we factor in those particular measures, we'll be able to tell whether the government is making an effort. Office of Special Prosecutor, more resources being given to anti-corruption institutions than any other government in Fourth Republic. Government making some savings on the back of prosecution of some corrupt officials. The institution of digitization to remove the human element from the management of public finances or public resources as a way of curbing corruption are all of the measures that this government have taken to address the issue of corruption. And we need to put all those down in the basket in other lists.
All right. I want us to wrap the conversation on a few crucial issues. I mean, when you look at people who are thinking that things are going to get better within the next 4 months, 54%, feel nothing is going to get better. There are different statistics. When you look at the core issues that people are looking at currently per the survey, you have the economy on top at over 20%, jobs next, close to 20%, education at almost 18%, and then interestingly, petroleum prices at the fourth spot. Corruption is only 3.79. But let's wrap. I just want us to look at the Bawumia-Allen statistic and then the economy. When they are asked, whom do you trust to best manage the economy? Over 46% go for John Mahama, former president. Dr. Bawumia is at 26%, Alan Kyerematen 15%, someone else 11%. When you look at whom they trust to best create jobs, Mahama is at 46%, Bawumia 23%, Alan 19%. Whom do they trust best to manage education? Interestingly, your party brought free SHS, but 47% plus of the respondents are saying John Mahama. Dr. Bawumia is at 25+%. Alan Kyerematen is at 15+%. And finally, in this instance, whom do you trust to best build infrastructure? Here, it is over 50%, 54% to Mahama, 21% to Bawumia, 13% to Alan. Quick reactions to that, and then we'll wrap on the Alan Bawumia bit for the MPP. That's how we'll wrap it up. So quick reactions to what I've mentioned. That's for you, Dr. Mahama.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
All right. So the management about the economy, that's why I'm saying that even that question, in fact, I discussed it very reluctantly because you cannot compare John Mahama, Bawumia, Alan Kyerematen, and other person to rank them. It should have been Bawumia versus John Mahama or Bawumia versus Alan or Alan versus John Mahama. Because you have two MPP people there. One MPP person. I mean, how can we even start by discussing such a result? You get the point I'm trying to make. So it's very difficult even wrapping my head against that particular analysis that was done.
But that is done. There's a side-by-side arrangement between the two, and then there's a side-by-side Bawumia versus Mahama and an Alan versus Mahama. That is done.
I can't find that in the research. The point you just mentioned to me is John Mahama, Bawumia, and that is why you've called me to comment on. You understand? So what you've invited me to comment on is not probably what you say it's in the report. If I can get that particular specific in the report, that is where probably I can, accounting for the points I've already mentioned, I can be able to at least attempt to respond to that. But in these particular instances, the comparison to start with is even wrong.
Okay, so
it's even difficult to comment on this.
All right, so let's just stick to in some 30 seconds the comparison between Dr. Bawumia and Alan Kyerematen, where Bawumia was in the lead with about 7 percentage points in January, and now Alan is in the lead, sweeping some 12 12 regions, I should say. Do you find that surprising? Is that something you subscribe to?
Of course, there's something that I don't find surprising because of the nature of the research, one. So I don't find it surprising. However, it is something that if it is true, any other party, I mean, Bawumia camp or Alan Chiramenti camp should not join over, because it means that every party has work to do. And
Okay.
I think that we have to look at it from that particular perspective, that if it is true that Alan is leading, which, I'm privy to no less than 6 different researches conducted by 6 different people, some of which we don't even want to come to the public on the prospect of these particular different candidates. Okay.
Because in there, Dr. Bawumia is in a comfortable lead, right?
No. For instance, let's even talk of that research.
No.
Bawumia is trusted in the management of economy. In that research that you people are having, he's trusted in the management of education. He's interested in the management of infrastructure, as against Alan Chiramenti. And you come to conclude that even though the people trust Bawumia in the management of this particular sector, they will vote for Alan. It doesn't make any sense.
Dr. Mahama, unfortunately, we don't have all the time. I'm sure we can continue this conversation at a point. Just to be fair, Musa Dankwa, 30 seconds, your wrap-up comments.
I think what we will say is that we believe in our data. We believe that we have held high standards of ethical research. And we have reasons, we have answers to every question that has been posed, but this opportunity will not give us the chance to explain everything. What I can say is that the race has been turned on its head, and there are reasons that is happening, because for Alan and Bawumia, what we saw in the data now is the collapse of Bawumia support from the Akan areas of the country.
Okay.
That has driven this number that we have seen, yes.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Musa Dankwa is Executive Director, Global Info Analytics. We also have Dr. Kabiru Mahama, Technical Director, Office of the Vice President. They joined us for this conversation. Right? Wrong? 2024. We'll tell. Stay with us on the AM show. We have more coming your way. Staying with us on the AM show. It's back again at the KIC Agritech Classic, and it's meant to trigger your ingenuity and innovation. Time is ticking for your inclusion, and here's all about it from the man himself, Benjamin Jankese, Executive Director, Cosmos Innovation Center, KIC for short. Benjamin, thank you for joining.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. And I was just, so today we have 2 Benjamins. I guess, you remember, it's all about the Benjamins this morning.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we need some Benjamin Franklins, some greenbacks to back it up.
Yes.
Anyway, tell us about the Cosmos Innovation Center. What is the Cosmos Innovation Center?
Well, Cosmos Innovation Center is a center that focuses on training young leaders, on entrepreneurs. And we've been around for the past 6 years, and it was set up as a corporate social investment program within the Cosmos Energy. And Cosmos Energy funded and supported the program for the past 5 years. And today we are getting some very good partners, looking at what we've been able to do over the past 5 years, the impact, to say that let's reach out to a larger population of the country. And so we'll be talking more about that and the partnership and what it means for KIC, and also the young leaders and entrepreneurs who are going to make us the Benjamins.
Who are going to make us the Benjamins, I like that. So I'm sure MasterCard, the MasterCard Foundation is one of those. Tell us a bit about this partnership you have with them and maybe what the gains have been thus far.
Right, so since the inception of Cosmos Innovation Center, we've been able to train over 600 young entrepreneurs and leaders.
600?
Yes.
Right here in Ghana?
Right here in Ghana.
Wow.
And it is a unique space we've chosen, agriculture. And basically we looked at it because we realized that most young people, most graduates do not even look at agriculture as a space where they can really get employment or make money. So we wanted to bring in innovations, digital technologies to drive the young people's interest into that space. And since the inception, we've been able to help create, as at, let's say, last month, we've been able to help create over 54 startups in the agritech
space.
Yes, value chain.
Right.
And out of that, 24 of them have received seed funding, and they sit in our incubator here in Accra at Jolu. Some of them are also in the various respective regions because of the nature of the business. So Cosmos Innovation Center are now partnered with MasterCard Foundation to expand this program so that the impact, like I mentioned, can reach a lot of people, and so not for the people who are only able to come to our center here in Accra. And the partnership is focused on helping us create work opportunities, dignified jobs for over 163,000
right,
over the next 4 years.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
That is quite a bit.
When I saw the figure, I was thinking, that's quite a project you're working on, 163,000.
Yes, and we're very certain that we'll be able to do this and more. And I am very much inspired with the partnership that we have with the various partners that we pulled on board. Now, in our program, we say we give feedback, and we say feedback is a gift. We also take feedback from the participants, the entrepreneurs. And one of the things that they kept telling us that they wish they knew this when they were in school. They wish they knew this when they were in school. So looking at that, we did a bit of research and realized that at an impressionable age, impressionable period in their life, you're able to help them shape their thinking. At least globally, we know a few businesses that are started on university campuses. Facebook is one of them.
Yeah.
And locally, we know Cesys Technology, we know some Pharma Line, others started their business.
So you're targeting that?
We're targeting young people right from the universities, where they are most impressionable, where they have a lot of time, where they can do a lot of research, and they are not just going to give up immediately because they have other challenges.
Right. Tell me about your Agritech Challenge Classic. And as you tell me about that, I just want to find out as well, very quickly, your programs, is it just agri-tech related? Do you have other programs on board?
So we're focused in the agri-business value chain. So agri-innovation, but we have various components in the program. So we have the Agritech Classic, which I'll give you a bit about it. In the Agritech Classic, we have two of them. We have the Classic and the Pro. Now, the Classic focuses on a 7-month entrepreneurship journey that you get to come in without an idea, but go through a process to get an idea and get it fine-tuned, and then you get an MVP, so that's a minimum viable product, saying this idea can work at least. Now, when you go through that process, there is a pitching competition. So you pitch to a panel, and then they will say this idea should move to the next stage. When you get opportunity to move to the next stage, that takes you into the Agritech Challenge Pro. And that at the Pro, you are going to be competing for seed funding. Okay. And then you are going to get opportunity to be incubated and take your business to the next level. And we also have what we call the Business Booster, and that focuses on agribusinesses that are in the MSME space.
Okay.
We already know some companies are in existence, they are doing very great stuff. Sometimes you need to have access to market, access to finance, or even sometimes all you need to do is to help them in some of their processes. Yeah. Teach them the way
and they're good to go.
And they're good to go. And so that is also one of the programs that we have running. And what we have also introduced, and we think is a very great thing to do, is our Women's Bootcamp that we have introduced. Now we also want to get more and more women in this space. Because when we started the program, we realized that the women numbers were not that encouraging. And it's like you're taking two, I won't say difficult, but two topics that people think that are only for men.
Right.
So you're taking agriculture, you're taking technology, innovation, and mostly women would shy away from that.
Right.
So we decided to create this Women's Bootcamp to demystify agriculture,
basically break the stereotypes.
Break the stereotype. And that has helped us move. Currently, are down to 39% women participation. Our goal is to go beyond 50% and possibly 70% in this next 4 years.
So even before you tell me about, and this will be the final bit, before you tell me about how young people can access, the Agritech Challenge Classic and all of that, I just want to find out about who are the intended beneficiaries of the Agritech Challenge?
So the intended beneficiaries are students at the third and final years and graduates. So in a part of the partnership, we're working with currently 5 universities. Okay. The goal is to have 16 universities by the end of the 4 years of this multi-year partnership with MasterCard Foundation. And they are the host universities. So currently we have KNUST, we have UCC, we have SD Dombo, we have UDSWA, and we have University of Ghana. They are
if you hadn't mentioned my alma mater, like this case, Yamutu, like there would have been trouble.
Sorry, I wasn't going to do that. Yes, so now these are the universities that are hosting the program. And other universities within the regions that I've mentioned, these universities are also allowed to participate. So that is the target group.
And so how do young people have access? How do they get on board to RAP?
So on the university websites, they can also go there. They can also go to Cosmos Innovation Center, KICGhana.org. KICGhana.org. And you can select the region that you are in and the university that you also want to be participating through.
Okay, and those are the details you can see on the screen. If you want to apply, you just look at the boxes that have been ticked. That refers to you. KICGhana.org to apply. For further inquiries, you can call the number there, 0559 692 863. And the deadline is the 25th of April.
25th of April, yes.
Okay.
And maybe before I go, we also want to take the opportunity to let the MSMEs, agri-MSMEs, to know that we're launching our Business Booster May 5th. And right from May 5th, the applications will be open for them as well.
Benjamin, thank you for joining the conversation this morning, and we wish you the very best, especially as you are creating opportunities, jobs for young people. We wish you the best on that. Okay, Benjamin Jankese, Executive Director of the KIFC. Well, coming up next, the Crime Foundation, in collaboration with USAID, is seeking to promote justice reform. I'm sure you want to know more about the case tracking system. All of that up next. Stay with us. Well, let's talk now about securing legal aid in Ghana, getting access to that, even as we also contemplate our case tracking systems. We know our court systems sometimes, and that's why we introduce technology and all of that. There have been numerous instances where we have had cases lasting, for as long as can be. How do we deal with some of these bottlenecks? Well, we have Godfred Nyako Yao Berima. He is with the law firm Yao Berima and Co. He joins me in the studio as we have a discussion on some of these all-important matters. Godfred, a very good morning to you.
Ben, good morning, and good morning to your viewers as well.
And the name actually is Godfred Enin
Nyako, yes.
Right, yes, Godfred Enin Nyako. So let's talk about, generally, USAID getting on board this entire enterprise. The question is why?
Yes, we all know the objective of USAID. In fact, they have been collaborating with the judicial system for some time now. They have been doing the justice reform system. They have been doing a lot of reforms, especially in our criminal justice system. This time around, they are coming together with Crime Check Foundation and other NGOs to try and advocate for the rights of criminals or accused persons who may not have the rights, whose rights may have been infringed during the period of their trial. So the main objective is to try and limit the time frame by which trials are conducted, and also prevent a situation where accused persons stay on remand for years without their cases being caught. Sometimes the cases or the dockets can even get lost. So that's the situation.
Sometimes interestingly. Sometimes to pepper you.
In fact, sometimes we know certain things we can't see live on TV. But it's also a fact that some of the
dockets... But I would say it because we all know it. So let's not pretend we don't.
Yes. So this is the main objective of USAID. Right, justice reform system, trying to prevent some of these situations from happening. And we are trying our best to reform the system.
Okay. So tell us about this case tracking system. Let's start from there. My layman's understanding of it means that, well, the cases are initiated. We must track them just as you would track whatever package you are sending via some of these agencies to some other country to ensure that in fact, they arrive at their destination in time.
You are right.
Okay.
So you should rather propagate that duties of the Crime Check Foundation.
So tell us more.
So it's mainly the USAID collaborating with the Judicial Service and other foundations to promote the rights of accused persons. So the main problem that we are trying to solve is to prevent the situation where accused persons or people who have been accused of crimes will stay on remand or within that system, the criminal justice system, for years without their cases being called. So this case tracking system is to prevent that situation. So when the case is brought to court, after the police have arrested you and brought to court, there's a spreadsheet that all the criminal courts are giving, especially the clerks there, that start tracking the cases from the day you are brought to court. So throughout the bail application to the time for case management conference to trial stage, it is tracked, and we are giving timelines. So previously, the cases we're not giving timelines. But now the judges have been giving specific instructions to give timelines for cases. So maybe when you are brought to court immediately, the cases are called, bail application shouldn't take more than 3 days, the case management conference shouldn't take more than 5 days, and the trial shouldn't take more than maybe 30 days. So this is a system that has been put in place. So
in other words, everybody right through the justicial system, including maybe even investigators,
yes,
are put on the spot so that you know this is not a case that is going to run indefinitely.
No.
You have a timeline within which to operate.
Yes, there's a timeline. And also a software has been created where we can track the stage at which every case is. So sitting at the back of my desk, I can track at which stage every single criminal cases at this time. So the spreadsheet,
all of them.
We are rolling it throughout the country. It's not everywhere now, but we are trying our best to roll within the country by the end of the year. So that's the system now. So the spreadsheet is being...
So just to clarify,
yes,
it means that when you're done rolling out by end of year, you will be able to track all the cases, criminal cases.
All criminal cases. For now, our attention is on the criminal cases. So all criminal cases can be tracked so that we don't have the situation where the dockets will get lost or we can't find where the dockets are. So the spreadsheet also contains information as to who and at what time the person handles every docket. So the docket is moved from the docket session to the courtroom. Whoever handles it will sign against his name or her name, sign at which time the case or the docket came to him, and then the case or the time that the docket left his desk. So that we are able to track at every point in time where a particular docket is. So that's the system that is put in place. So the case tracking system is basically to track the movement of dockets, also track the time frame by which cases are conducted in court. So it's part of the broader case management system that the court is implementing.
So this is very interesting because, like you mentioned, in years past, you could be on remand for
years.
I mean, perpetually.
Yes.
You would go to some prisons,
yes,
and you would see people whose cases had never been heard. There was no conclusion to it. And maybe even you would find out that the penalty for what they had supposedly done,
they've exceeded it.
They've exceeded the time,
yes,
and they are still rotting in the prison or in some sort of custody.
So that's the reason why the USA decided to partner judicial service. Because sometimes, as you are saying, people spend years on remand. Maybe their crime for which they've been charged is maybe 2 years or 1 year, but they may have spent 5 years on remand when their case hasn't been tried. So, in fact, it is a very good system we are trying to roll throughout the country, and that we expect the media to also support us. Let people know that this is the system the judicial service has put in place. So the old age system where criminals would rot in jail or accused persons would rot in jail for years, the system has changed.
So we must all know that as well, so that people's rights would, because people would still think that things are what they used to be. So it's important we do this so that people will know.
Especially family members of accused persons.
Right.
They can also go to the judicial service and track the cases
So individuals can also access it.
Yes. Right. But then you have to go to the judicial service. Every district where the court or the case is being tried, you go there, you ask the registrar to inform you of the status of a particular case. They'll let you know this.
Does this system, the tracking system, does it also involve other details of criminal procedure? So I'm saying here, think about, and I don't want to be specific, but think about cases where people, apart from the docket, people will tell you, oh, my autopsy report and tied to, let's say, a murder case. Oh, it was on my laptop and the laptop is missing. Those kinds of things. You know exactly what I'm referring
to.
So does it inculcate those as well? So that all the details are in there, and regardless of who is off the case and who is now on or what someone has lost, we still have a trail to follow?
Yes. Currently, the system makes provision for tracking the status of the cases. But then if you know where the case is at the moment, you can formally apply to the court to give you the proceedings, record of proceedings of the particular case.
Okay.
So although the system is not designed to give particular details as to how the case is being tried, you can individually apply to the court to get the record of proceedings for a particular case. That can be done by relatives of accused persons. If you think your case is being, your family member's case is being delayed unduly, you can apply to the court for the proceedings, and then you can also follow up and make sure that things are done properly. But so the general overview is to make sure that justice delivery is done in accordance with protection of the people's rights, because you all have the right to be tried within a reasonable time, which is very important. A reasonable time. So reasonable time means that your rights must be protected. If you are being tried for an offense, the court must try you within a time frame that you all understand the Constitution has made provision for. So that's what we are doing.
Are there any other benefits to this system that, I mean, as we roll out, we seek or we shall be getting? Are there any other benefits, apart from what you've mentioned to me? I mean, maybe you are forecasting that as you fine-tune it, there will be extra benefits. What are we looking at?
So the other benefit we expect to get from the system is to reduce the number of cases in our courtrooms, because that's a major challenge. Cases have been adjourned for longer times because the courts are overburdened with cases. So if you're able to give time frame within
we've been forced to even sit some weekends, for
sometimes,
example.
as I speak to you, tomorrow I have 8 o'clock trial. Ordinarily, a case starts at 9. But the court has forced me to come at 8 o'clock to do a criminal trial, because there's a case tracking system that makes the judge, or gives an obligation to the judge to finish the trial within a month.
So now they are also pushed.
Yes, so sometimes lawyers go to court 8 o'clock, even before the 9 o'clock that the court is supposed to start. So all of us have been pushed to the wall to make sure that cases are done within a time frame. That's what is important.
As citizens, as media entities, like we are sitting here doing, what is expected of us in this respect?
Yes, I expect the media to propagate the reforms in the criminal system. You all know that a lot of the information that comes out are all bad news. But then the system is being reformed gradually. Right. Secondly, I want us to know our rights. If as I speak to you right now, you can then be able to follow a particular criminal case that is going on at every point in time. So if you know that you have this right, it's good for us. You understand? If you have this right, it's good for us. So this is the major benefit that we expect to get after the system has been rolled out.
Yeah. We're also going to be talking about the access to justice.
Yes.
And they say the wheels of justice grind slowly. But still very fine. But sometimes people will also on the other end tell you that justice delayed is justice denied. So let's talk about access to legal aid in Ghana. Where do we find ourselves? I mean, what is the status quo?
The Legal Aid Commission has been there for some time now. People know of the work that they do. Specifically, it's for people who are not able to access the activities of private legal practitioners because of their financial obligations.
Right.
So there are two main criteria to come under the broad Legal Aid Commission requirements. First, you must come within the means criteria. When I say the means criteria, it must be within the minimum wage criteria. Okay. So if you exceed the minimum wage, you may not qualify ordinarily for legal aid services. So when you pick, before you
So it means these people must be at or below minimum wage?
At or below the minimum wage, ordinarily. Right. There are other conditions where you can apply to the board to consider your situation, although you exceed the minimum wage criteria. But ordinarily, you must be within the minimum wage criteria. So when you apply to a legal aid, you pick an application form. You state your name, your age, your personal information. You also state your income brackets. So the income you make in a month, the work you do. So there's a selection panel that will evaluate the cases that come before them. So it's not every application that comes for them, they pick it. So based on the criteria, the selection panel will select whether you come within the framework of the Legal Aid Commission.
So it means that you could be within the minimum wage bit, but you may still not be.
But you may still not be, because it's not every case that they also handle. Okay. In general sense, they handle all criminal cases. Even in murder cases, there's an obligation, murder or manslaughter of felony cases, there's an obligation on the state to provide you with a lawyer. But in all other criminal cases too, legal aid, when you apply to them that don't have a lawyer, there's an obligation on them to also represent you when you come within the minimum wage bracket. And then secondly, there are some civil cases that they do handle. Basically, they handle landlord tenancy matters, maintenance and child custody matters. They handle adoption matters. They also handle matrimonial matters and inheritance matters. So when you come within this category, you can apply. You know that I specifically left out land matters. But that is what is predominant in our courts now.
Right.
So ordinarily, legal aid do not handle land matters. But when you have a land matter, and you come within the
that's what usually the money matter.
It's money matter.
So you guys, I can see why you stay away from
it's money matter. So when you come within the brackets and you have a land issue, you can apply to a legal aid board.
Right.
So in that situation, there will be an arrangement. That's where the case is successful at the end. The revenue that comes out of it, or the money that comes out of it.
Hey, TV.
They are taking care of the expenses involved.
Right. But I think only fair.
Yes, it's fair. It's fair that the state has pushed money into representing you in your private land matter, so you should be able to pay for the expenses at the end.
Okay. I mean, when you're arrested, in most jurisdictions, sometimes here, but the Miranda rights, Miranda warning, you have the right not to speak on certain matters and all of that, because anything you say can and would be used against you. But for people who are arrested, what are their rights? And what does the law say? What are the provisions in the law concerning arrested people?
Okay, so when you have been arrested, the police or the arresting party should immediately inform you of the reasons for your arrest. Somebody may have made a complaint against you. So they should have informed you at the time of your arrest the reason why they arrested you.
We're arresting you because you were holding a firearm.
Or because there's been a complaint against you that you've broken into somebody's home. So they must state the reason why they are arresting you. Okay. Normally in our setting, it is not done ordinarily, but they are supposed to do that. So that's why we are also advocating for people to know their rights. If someone is going to arrest you, you must ask them the reason for your arrest, which is very important. And then secondly, they must also inform you of your rights not to self-incriminate.
Right.
Not to volunteer information that will self-incriminate you. Because that is a basic right.
Right.
If at the time of your arrest, you are not represented by counsel, they must inform you of your right to have counsel of your choice. Right. So these are basic rights that are available to all people who have been arrested at every one point in time.
Let's talk about bail.
Yes.
And it's a crucial matter. The hours you can be kept. And the landmark cases when it comes to bailable and non-bailable offences are sorted out a matter of things. And recently we saw that coming into play with the Oliver Barker-Vormawor situation. But first of all, I know a lot of people, when they hear that, surety and all of that, they think you must pay these sums of money. So break it down for us. Is bail free or not? And what are some of the bail conditions in Ghana?
Okay, so let me start by saying that there are two main. When I talk about bail, you have the police inquiry bail and the court bail.
Right.
So when you have been arrested by the police, and then within the investigation, they know that they cannot present you before the court within 48 hours. There's an obligation on them to give you what you call police inquiry bail.
Okay.
So that police inquiry bill, they may demand for sureties, either one or two sureties or more, depending on the particular offense. They can also do a self-recognizance bill. Right. Normally, it's given to people of political power and also professionals because your availability is assured. Right. So bail is just to ensure that you attend court or you attend the police station or whenever call is made on you to attend. So when it comes to bail conditions, normally police inquiry bail, they don't give bail conditions. They ask you to bring sureties.
Right.
The sureties, normally what they do ordinarily is to also visit the official residence of the sureties to make sure that if they can't get you, the surety will produce you.
Right.
So there's no monetary requirements when you are being given bail. That's what we must emphasize on. The police must not demand money from you or the accused person or the person who has been arrested at that point in time before they give you police inquiry bail. Sometimes they may say that they need money to take for transport,
right,
to go and visit or to go check the residence of the sureties. For that, depends
is that legitimate?
It's not. It shouldn't
because
be.
the state should.
It shouldn't be.
Fuel vehicles and all of that.
It shouldn't be because the state must have vehicles and because we fuel it, which is not taxpayer money.
Even but to stretch it, even worse. Sometimes we've heard that you are under attack and you call and they tell you must.
Yes, my recent experience with the police last week indicated that nowadays they don't meet the demand for the transport. But there are some stations that also, because of the unavailability of fuel or car, vehicle, that particular time, they may demand for transport to visit or to check the residents.
So what do ordinary citizens do in that regard? I mean, if it's going to inure to your own benefit, and if this is a station where they obviously lack the logistics, what do you do?
I would say, if I'm representing you, that if in actual sense the police doesn't have the vehicle at that particular point in time, you also need a bill. You don't want to sleep in the cells at that point. So if you have the money to take care, or if you can get a taxi yourself or an Uber, and then take the police to the official residence of the sureties. But ordinarily, they are not supposed to do that. But in a situation where they don't have the car or the vehicle or the fuel to run it, you can take care of the transport cost at that particular point. But it shouldn't have been so, because the state is supposed to finance the police.
Okay.
In terms of all logistics.
Anything else on bail?
Yeah, so I spoke about police inquiry bail. There's also the court bail. So when the police present you before the courts, if you are represented by a counsel, your counsel will make application for bail at that particular point in time. Even if you are not represented by a counsel, but the court itself will determine the bail issue. So when the court grants you bail, ordinarily it comes with bail conditions. The bail conditions can be either justified or not justified. Okay. Sometimes the justification goes with securing the bail sum with a landed property. It doesn't mean that you pay the bail sum. This is a bail sum of 200,000. It doesn't mean that you're going to pay the 200,000. But if you say 200,000 with justification, it means that you have to have a landed property whose value is equal to 200,000 or more. So that is what is when it comes to the court bail, as we stated. The court can also ask you to provide sureties whose minimum salary is not below a certain range.
Right.
It's also supposed to ensure that you come to court when you are asked to do so. So
and that if you abscond,
the state can fall on the shoulders.
Let's talk about, let me just go back briefly. So for those who are arrested, whose rights are abused, how do they seek redress? What are the mechanisms in place?
So the first mechanism is to get a lawyer if you have the financial ability to do that.
Right.
There are other mechanisms.
And if you don't, seek legal aid.
Yes, and if you don't seek legal aid, because the SHRAJ is also there. You shouldn't forget that is one of their major functions.
Right.
The SHRAJ is supposed to handle certain issues. Corruption, abuse of power, those issues are there. Also, where the police has abused your rights. Maybe they've kept you for more than 48 hours. Maybe they've beaten you in the cells. Maybe they did not present you before the court at the right time, or their mode of treating you wasn't in accordance with the law. You make a formal petition to SHRAJ for SHRAJ to determine the issue. So SHRAJ also has that power, just that they don't have prosecutorial power.
Right.
When it comes to prosecution, they have to fall on the Attorney General. So those rights are there. The Commission on Human Rights and Treasurer SHRAJ, even the police itself has an internal mechanism that ensures that officers do not abuse the rights of accused persons or people who have been arrested. So PIPs, they are there. Sometimes you also write a formal petition to the IGP to set up an investigation team to investigate a particular situation. So those issues are all there, which we, through this medium and other mediums, we expect citizens to know of their rights under the law. So,
what is the process for filing complaints, for example, if you're arrested, and especially when it comes to police and maybe supposed brutality? What is the process, very quickly?
PIPs, they have a form. When you go there, there's a form.
I think they've changed now, Police Bureau or something.
Yeah. So that we are used to the PIPs, the name.
Yeah.
And also, there's a formal petition that you can write. I've done that several times. So you write a formal petition complaining about the incidents to PIPs, and then they will take it from there. As I said, legal aid, they have a form that you pick. The form, you give all the details that are necessary to give. The selection panel will take it from there. Also, the SHRAJ also has a petition that when you write to them through a petition format, you get assistance that you need from the church. These systems are there to ensure that the justice delivery is done in accordance with what the Constitution has told us to do, to protect the rights of ordinary citizens.
You mentioned SHRAJ. You also mentioned the Legal Aid Commission.
Legal, yes.
What, in respect of the Legal Aid Commission, what processes must be followed if you want, their assistance?
Yeah, so they have district officers in all the districts in Ghana. When you approach them, whether you are literate or not, they will assist you to fill out the necessary requirements on their form. So when you fill in the necessary requirements, the selection panel, when you fall within the criteria, they invite you. Ordinarily, they also invite the person for whom you've made a complaint against. Let's say when it's a matrimonial matter, and you made a complaint against your husband, or when there's a child maintenance issue, they inform or they invite the person you've made a complaint against, for the person to come before them for a mediation process to take place. So they don't just rush to court. They go through a mediation process before, if the mediation doesn't work, they go to court to represent the person who applied for their services. That's what is done.
And what would you say is the crucial importance of the Legal Aid Commission, just for those watching to understand why we even have that commission?
Yes, the commission was mainly set up to protect the less earning citizen, the ordinary people who cannot access or who doesn't have the financial muscle to access the services of a lawyer. So where you don't earn enough or you are not even working and you are not able to seek services of a lawyer just because you don't have money, where your rights have been infringed upon, you apply to a Legal Aid Commission for redress. So they have competent lawyers who will represent you in court and do your case for you if you don't have money. That's the basic benefits or objective of the Legal Aid Commission.
Okay, so the Crime Check Foundation, partnering USAID on all of this.
Yes.
And two crucial things, just to rehash, we're looking at promoting the case tracking system, and we must all come on board and know about it. You never know when the long arms of the law will reach you or someone close to you, and then you may have to follow some of these processes, as well as access to legal aid.
Yes.
Any final comments as we wrap?
Yes, I would entreat ordinary citizens to demand for the protection of their rights. Where the state institutions, maybe the Ghana Police Service, BNI, where they arrest you, demand for your rights under the law, because the law has made ample provision for you. Where you don't have money to seek legal services from a lawyer or private legal practitioner, the legal aid is there for you. Secondly, accused person, when you have been accused of offense and arrested and brought before the court, you also have, there's a system to protect your rights in court. So where the case is unduly delaying, your family relative or somebody who is closer to you can write a formal letter to the registrar of the court asking for the status of that particular case, so that they will know particularly where the case has reached through the case tracking system, which is very important.
Well,
I'm also grateful.
I salute you, sir. Thanks for coming. And of course, this is crucial information that we all need to know, maybe have on the back of our hands, all of us, all inside.
So the Crime Check Foundation, we've gone to various media houses, and we are still doing that to advocate for the rights of individuals.
All right. Yes. Godfred Enin Nyako, lawyer, and he is with Yao Berima & Co. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Before we go, water is life. Water regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions, 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like me. We have introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes as well. Take advantage. Now, you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casa Preco. For bulk purchases, please call them on 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. Let's talk money. Did you know that the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected businesses is exempt from tax for 5 years? Any young entrepreneur engaged in manufacturing, information and communications technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism and the creative arts, horticulture and medicinal plants does not need to pay income tax on these activities for their first 5 years of operation. A young entrepreneur engaged in a business that enjoys an initial 5-year concession benefits from the following applicable tax rates for an additional 5 years. Are you ready? Accra and Tema, 15%. Other regional capitals outside the 3 northern regions, 12.5%. Outside the other regional capitals, 10%. And in the 3 northern regions, 5%. For further clarity and information, just reach out to your nearest GRA office. Ghana Revenue Authority, integrity, fairness, and service. And let me just add, you have to pay income tax on any income you earn in Ghana, even when you do not live in Ghana. When you earn any income through a business transaction, income tax must be paid by the business by withholding the tax amount and paying same to the GRA on your behalf. So when you hear of that, don't think that anybody is cheating you. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for joining on the AM show. Our major news bulletins come your way at 10 and at noon. Let's connect same time tomorrow. Good day.